Today we're going to look at, should you buy a resale or a new franchise? So a resale business, that's going to have existing customer base, it has cash flow, but a new franchise is going to be cheaper. Which one is going to be a better scenario today on Franchise City? So here at Franchise City, we work with and represent both resale businesses. So these are franchises that have been operating for a while and the franchise owner is selling that business. And also new franchises. These are ones that you just start from scratch. Now, there's no right or wrong answer. It's going to depend on your situation. So if you have the budget, a resale business might make sense, as you're going to be paying a premium for this business as it has existing cash flow, as opposed to buying a new franchise, which does not. Now, usually a resale franchise is going to be sold for a multiple of their revenue. So for example, if a business has a net profit of $100,000 a year, it's selling for $250,000. That's a 2.5 multiple. And every industry has its own suggested multiple range that makes sense for that business. Now, tip number one, if the business is cheap, there's probably a reason. And we get asked this question all the time. Robert, this coffee shop, this gas station, this yogurt shop, this cleaning company, it's selling for only $30,000. Is it a good deal? 99% of the time, these low-priced businesses are cash distressed. They're not making any money. Now, some businesses are easier to turn around than others, so it can actually be a good deal if you know how to turn around a business. I'll give you an example. A McDonald's franchise. Not a whole lot that you can do to increase that business because you're limited by walk-in traffic that walks into the restaurant. But a printing business, consulting, commercial cleaning, these types of businesses, you can get out there into the business community. You can start to network and proactively build that business back up. So depending on your skills and depending on the type of business, you've got to ask yourself first, is this a business where I can control the outcome, where I can do a turnaround? If so, in that case, do I have the skills to control that outcome? And in those cases, a distressed resale at that bargain basement price might make sense. Now, most of the time, however, these are buyers. They have little to no money. They're hypnotized just by the dream of being a business owner. They spend $30,000 on a struggling coffee shop. They lose all that money paying their rent, paying their employee salaries, advertising, and then they sell that business again 6 months later to the same type of buyer, rinse and repeat. So unless you have those turnaround skills, and unless it's a business you can turn around, usually not a good deal when it's that discount price. Also remember, in resale situations, certain businesses do not have recurring revenue. So a cleaning company, for example, that comes with customers. They're going to continue using your service on a regular basis. A company like a painting franchise, you're working with a customer once and they're probably not going to paint again for a number of years. So there's not going to be that much recurring revenue or existing customer base you're going to take over unless you have contracts with builders or contractors. And you're always going to want to ask about the existing customer base, what that looks like to determine exactly that. Again, another example, appliance repair. Same thing. You fix their refrigerator or their stove, and you've got no idea when you're going to see that customer again. So you have to ask, does this business have recurring revenue that I'm going to take over, and does it have existing customer base that I'm going to benefit from? If not, you might be better starting a new franchise from scratch because you're not going to be paying that premium. Again, every situation is different, but something to consider. Now, you have to remember, any business that is profitable is not going to be for sale for $30,000 or $50,000 when the buyer started that business by paying $250,000. Just common sense will tell you that. So most of these businesses that you see at these fire sale prices are often cash strapped. And it can sometimes be easier to start a new franchise than to turn a failing business around. But why is that? So first up, negative reviews. Very often, these struggling companies have dug themselves into a hole online, which is very hard to dig yourself out of. It might make sense just to start fresh and build your credibility and your rapport online. Liability is number two, and we've covered this before on a previous video that was called Buy a Business for No Money Down, the Dangers of Doing That. I'm going to place that link above here if you want to watch it, and also at the end of the video. Buying an existing business, you can end up owing the past debts of that business or even be liable for future lawsuits. We covered that in that video. Now, a new franchise, there is no liability. There's no debts that you might be in trouble for, and there's no existing lawsuits that can come back to haunt you. And number 3 is the company culture. Very often, these struggling businesses have very poor employee-employer relationships, which can be very difficult to turn around when you're dealing with a number of different complex personality types. You can build that culture from scratch if you're buying a new business. So just things to consider when you're buying a resale. Now, conversely, if you do have the budget, you don't have to buy a fire sale business, and you can buy a well-run franchise or business that can make sense. The staff is in place, they're long-term, there's low attrition, the culture is great, their online reviews are good, and the customers are all happy. You just buy that business and you walk into existing cash flow. But these businesses aren't being sold for $30,000 or $50,000. They're successful. They're going to be asking a lot more money for those. Now, of course, you're going to be paying a premium for these types of resale businesses. So the equity that you would have made by starting that business from scratch, you're going to lose that when you buy the resale. So as you can see, there's no right or wrong answer. It's going to depend on your skills, your budget, the type of business, and a number of other factors as well. I'll put a link to the dangers of buying a business with no money down link above, and a link to this month's top resale businesses down below. Please like and subscribe. And if you're looking for a resale or new franchise, feel free to visit us at www.franchise.city. Thanks for watching.